The transport shuttle shuddered as it broke through Earth's atmosphere. Inside, Crix pressed his blue-webbed fingers against the small window and stared at the endless ocean below. His home planet had water too, but it was clean and safe. No dangerous creatures lived in those peaceful seas. Earth's oceans looked different somehow. They seemed wild and untamed. "Attention all recruits," announced a voice over the speaker system. "We will arrive at Pacific Training Station in 10 minutes. Please prepare for docking." Crix looked around at his fellow alien recruits. There was Vex, whose crystal body sparkled under the shuttle lights. Next to him sat Gorla, a furry creature from the ice worlds. They all looked nervous. This was their first time on the famous human home world. The Galactic Defense Coalition had chosen Earth as the main training center for water operations. Humans were known throughout the galaxy as excellent swimmers and divers. What the aliens did not know was why humans were so good at these things. The shuttle landed with a soft bump on the floating platform. Through the windows, Crix could see humans walking around in simple clothes. They looked relaxed and happy. Some were even laughing. How strange, Crix thought. This was supposed to be a military training base. "Welcome to Earth," said a tall human man as the recruits filed out of the shuttle. He had short brown hair and kind eyes. "I am Commander James Mitchell. I will be your training officer for the next 6 months." The group followed James into a large white building. The walls were covered with pictures of Earth's oceans. Crix noticed that many of the photos showed humans swimming underwater. But something in the background of these pictures made his gills flutter with worry. There were large gray shapes in the water behind the humans. "Please take your seats," James said, pointing to rows of chairs facing a big screen. "We will begin with orientation." The lights dimmed and the screen lit up. The first image showed Earth's beautiful blue oceans from space. Then the view changed to show underwater scenes. Colorful fish swam past coral reefs. Dolphins played in the waves. Everything looked peaceful and pretty. "Earth's oceans cover most of our planet," James explained. "They are home to millions of different creatures. During your training here, you will learn to work in this environment." Crix relaxed a little. Maybe this would not be so scary after all. Then the image changed again. This time it showed something that made Crix's heart race. A massive creature moved through the water. It was gray and white with a pointed nose. Its mouth was full of sharp white teeth. The creature was longer than the shuttle they had just left. "This is a great white shark," James said in the same calm voice he had used before. "They can grow up to 20 feet long and weigh over 2 tons. Several recruits gasped. Vex's crystal body began to flash red, which meant he was afraid. Gorla made a low growling sound. Crix felt like he could not breathe properly. "These monsters live in your training waters?" he asked, his voice shaking. James smiled. "They are not monsters. They are just fish. Very big fish with teeth. But yes, they live in our oceans." The screen showed more images. Tiger sharks with dark stripes. Bull sharks with thick bodies. Hammerhead sharks with strange flat heads. Each one looked more frightening than the last. "Do not worry," James continued. "Shark attacks are very rare. We swim with them all the time." Crix could not understand these words. His translator was working, but the meaning made no sense. How could attacks be rare if these creatures had such terrible teeth? How could humans swim with these death machines? On Crix's home world, the ancient rulers had removed all dangerous sea creatures thousands of years ago. The oceans were perfectly safe. Children could swim anywhere without fear. There were no predators, no threats, no monsters lurking in the depths. "I have prepared some videos of our training exercises," James said. "This will help you understand what to expect." The screen now showed humans swimming underwater. They moved slowly and calmly through the blue water. Fish swam around them. Everything seemed normal until Crix saw something that made him want to run away. A huge shark was swimming directly toward one of the humans. The person did not try to escape. Instead, they just floated there and watched the shark approach. The massive predator came closer and closer. Its black eyes seemed to stare right through the screen at Crix. Then something impossible happened. The shark simply swam past the human. It did not attack. It did not even seem interested. The human continued swimming as if nothing had happened. "As you can see," James explained, "sharks usually ignore humans. They are more curious than aggressive." Crix's mind could not accept what he was seeing. On his world, any creature with such teeth would be considered a deadly threat. How could humans be so calm around these apex predators? Lieutenant Emma Brooks, a young human woman with blonde hair, walked to the front of the room. "I know this seems scary," she said, looking directly at Crix. "But we have been swimming with sharks for thousands of years. They are just part of our world." "Just part of your world?" repeated Gorla in disbelief. These are killing machines. Emma shook her head. They are living creatures trying to survive just like us. Most of the time, they want nothing to do with humans. As the orientation continued, Crix realized that humans saw their planet very differently than other species would. Where others saw danger and death, humans saw just another part of nature to understand and respect. The session ended with James announcing the schedule for water training. Tomorrow they would enter the ocean for the first time. That night, Crix lay in his bunk staring at the ceiling. Outside his window he could hear the waves hitting the platform. Somewhere out there in the dark water the monsters were swimming. Tomorrow he would have to join them. The morning sun painted golden streaks across the calm Pacific waters as Crix stood on the floating platform with the other alien recruits. His webbed hands trembled as he adjusted his diving gear for the third time. The breathing apparatus felt heavy and strange on his face, nothing like the natural gills he was used to. Today we practice basic underwater movement and observation, announced Sergeant Tom Harrison, a stocky human with graying hair and calm blue eyes. He was already wearing his diving suit and flippers. The water temperature is perfect, visibility is excellent, and the sea life is active. Sea life. Those two words made Crix's stomach twist with fear. He knew what kind of sea life lived in these waters. The human trainees were already gathering at the edge of the platform. There were 6 of them, all young and eager. They chatted casually as they checked their equipment. One of them, a boy who looked barely 20 years old, was actually smiling. "First dive on Earth," said David Carter, the young human. "I have been looking forward to this for weeks." He had red hair and freckles, and he seemed completely unafraid. Crix could not understand this attitude. Through his enhanced hearing he could detect movement in the deep water below. His sonar abilities, evolved over millions of years, told him that large creatures were circling beneath the platform. Very large creatures. "Attention everyone," Tom called out. "Before we enter the water, remember the basic rules. Move slowly and smoothly. Do not make sudden movements. Stay with your assigned partner. Most importantly, respect the marine life. They have lived in these waters long before we arrived." Vex, the crystal being from Andromeda, raised one of his sharp arms. "What if we encounter the toothed creatures?" "Sharks," Tom corrected gently. "If you see a shark, remain calm. Do not swim away quickly. They are usually just curious. Watch your human partner and follow their lead." Easy for him to say, thought Crix. Humans had somehow evolved alongside these monsters. They did not understand real fear. The human trainees began entering the water in pairs. They slipped into the ocean like they were entering a swimming pool at home. No hesitation, no fear, just calm confidence. David Carter was the first to fully submerge. Through the clear water, Crix watched him descend slowly, looking around with obvious enjoyment. The boy actually seemed to be having fun. Then Crix saw something that made his blood freeze. A long gray shadow was moving through the water toward David. It was huge, at least 8 feet long, with the unmistakable shape that haunted Crix's nightmares. "Shark!" Crix screamed, his voice carrying both above and below the water through his natural sonar. "Death fish approaches the human child." The sound was so loud and urgent that several dolphins in the distance began clicking in response. The alien recruits on the platform backed away from the edge. 2 of them began making preparations to leave. But David did not panic. Instead, he simply stopped swimming and floated in place, watching the approaching predator with what looked like interest. The tiger shark, with its distinctive dark stripes, came closer and closer. Crix was certain he was about to witness a terrible accident. He had seen documentaries about shark attacks. He knew how fast these creatures could move when they decided to strike. The shark reached David and then swam right past him. It barely glanced at the human before continuing on its way. David gave a thumbs-up signal to the people on the platform and continued with his dive. "See," Tom said as if nothing unusual had just happened. Tiger sharks are generally not interested in humans. This one was probably just checking out the new activity in her territory. Her territory. Tom spoke about the shark like it was a neighbor, not a deadly predator. More human trainees entered the water. Rebecca Stone, a young woman with dark hair, actually swam toward a group of smaller sharks near some coral. She began taking pictures with an underwater camera, treating the predators like tourist attractions. "This is insane," muttered Gorla, his fur standing on end. "How are they still alive?" Admiral Zephin, a high-ranking officer from the Centauri system, had been watching from the command deck above. He was taking notes on his electronic tablet, and his expression was troubled. 3 alien recruits had already refused to enter the water. The Equation delegate had formally complained about unsafe training conditions. Commander Mitchell, Admiral Zephin called down to James, perhaps we should reconsider this training location. Your personnel seem to have an unusual tolerance for mortal danger. James climbed out of the water, dripping but smiling. With respect, Admiral, I think that is exactly why this training is valuable. We have learned to assess real danger versus perceived danger. Perceived danger? Admiral Zephin's tentacles writhed in disbelief. Those creatures could kill any of us in seconds. They could, James agreed. But they choose not to. That is the difference. We have learned to read their behavior, understand their intentions. Most shark encounters are completely harmless. As if to prove his point, another human trainee surfaced near the platform. It was Mike Johnson, a veteran instructor who had been diving for 20 years. Swimming beside him, close enough to touch, was a massive bull shark. Beautiful animal, Mike said as he treaded water. Probably 12 feet long. She was just curious about my equipment. The bull shark circled once more and then disappeared into the deeper water. Mike climbed onto the platform as casually as if he had been swimming in a lake. By the end of the training session, only 2 alien recruits had actually entered the water. The rest remained on the platform, watching in amazement and terror as humans continued to swim among creatures that should have been their natural enemies. Tomorrow we practice emergency procedures, Tom announced as everyone gathered their equipment. Crix wondered what kind of emergencies humans practiced when they voluntarily swam with apex predators. He was beginning to realize that Earth's training program was unlike anything else in the galaxy. Admiral Zephin arrived at the training station early in the morning with his full evaluation team. He had traveled across 3 star systems to see why the Earth maritime program was causing so many complaints from alien recruits. The reports he had received made no sense. How could humans be both the best water fighters in the galaxy and the most reckless? The Admiral was a tall, thin creature with purple skin and 4 arms. His species came from a desert world where water was precious and carefully protected. The idea of swimming for fun seemed strange to him. Swimming with dangerous predators seemed impossible. Today will be a full demonstration dive, Commander James explained as they walked along the platform. You will see exactly how we train our people to work in marine environments. The morning was perfect for diving. The water was clear blue and calm. Sunlight streamed down through the waves, creating dancing patterns of light on the sandy bottom below. It looked beautiful and peaceful. Admiral Zephin watched through his viewing device as the mixed team of humans and aliens prepared their equipment. He noticed that the humans seemed relaxed and happy. They joked with each other as they checked their air tanks and masks. The aliens, however, looked worried and scared. Crix was among the group, having finally agreed to try another dive. His blue skin was pale with fear, but he was determined to understand why humans were not afraid. Maybe if he could learn their secret, he could overcome his own terror. Remember everyone, called Mark Thompson, the lead human instructor, we are just visitors in their world down there. Move slowly, stay calm, and enjoy the experience. The group entered the water together. Admiral Zephin watched from above as they descended into the blue depths. At first, everything seemed normal. Colorful fish swam around the divers. Sea plants waved gently in the current. It was actually quite beautiful. Then something changed. The Admiral saw the other fish suddenly scatter and disappear. The water seemed to grow darker somehow. Through his viewing scope, he spotted the reason for the change. A massive bull shark was approaching the group. This was not one of the smaller sharks they had seen before. This creature was enormous, at least 12 feet long and thick with muscle. Its broad head and aggressive body shape marked it as one of the most dangerous sharks in Earth's oceans. Admiral Zephin expected to see panic. He expected the divers to flee toward the surface. Instead, he watched something that made no sense at all. Mark Thompson, the human instructor, actually swam toward the approaching predator. He moved slowly and deliberately, holding out one hand as if greeting an old friend. The massive shark came closer and closer until it was only inches away from the human. What is he doing? Admiral Zephin whispered to Commander James. Introducing himself, James replied calmly. Through the underwater communication system, they could hear Mark's voice as he spoke to the group. This is a beautiful bull shark, probably a female. See how she is approaching with her fins relaxed? She is curious, not hunting. The shark allowed Mark to touch its nose gently. The human guided the massive predator away from the group with firm but respectful pressure. He moved like someone directing traffic, not like someone facing a deadly threat. Bulls are territorial creatures, Mark continued, his voice steady and educational. They investigate anything new in their area. The key is to show respect without showing fear. Let her know we understand this is her home. Crix watched in amazement from a safe distance. His natural instincts screamed at him to flee, but he forced himself to stay and observe. The shark was enormous. Its teeth were clearly visible. One snap of those jaws could cut a person in half. Yet Mark treated it like a large dog that needed gentle handling. The bull shark circled the group slowly. Its black eyes seemed to study each diver carefully. When it approached Vex, the crystal alien began flashing bright red in terror. But the shark showed no interest in his fear. It simply looked at him for a moment and moved on. Lieutenant Colonel Patricia Hayes, a female human instructor, swam over to where Crix was floating. "Your people eliminated all predators from your oceans, did they not?" she asked through the communication system. Crix managed a shaky nod. On his home world, dangerous sea creatures had been hunted to extinction thousands of years ago. The oceans were safe and clean, suitable for children and peaceful activities. "We tried that once long ago," Patricia explained. "Humans attempted to kill all the sharks in our seas. But it nearly destroyed everything. The ocean ecosystem collapsed without its top predators. Smaller fish overpopulated and ate all the plants. The water became dirty and lifeless." She gestured toward Mark, who was now swimming alongside the bull shark as if it were a trained companion. "So we learned a different way. Instead of eliminating the danger, we learned to understand it. We studied their behavior, their needs, their patterns. We found ways to coexist." The shark had completed its investigation of the dive group. Apparently satisfied that they were not a threat or a food source, it began to swim away. Mark followed it for a short distance, still filming its movements with an underwater camera. "The same approach helped us when we first met hostile alien species in space," Patricia continued. "Instead of immediately fighting or running away, we tried to learn what they wanted, what they feared, how they communicated. Most conflicts come from misunderstanding, not from genuine malice." Admiral Zephin realized he was witnessing something unprecedented in galactic history. Most intelligent species had evolved by eliminating or avoiding their natural predators. Humans had chosen a third path. They had learned to live alongside their monsters. As the dive group returned to the surface, Admiral Zephin found himself reconsidering everything he thought he knew about human military capabilities. Perhaps their strange relationship with danger was not a weakness after all. Dr. Lisa Campbell led Crix through the underwater research station with quiet confidence. The facility was built into the ocean floor, with thick transparent walls that offered a perfect view of the marine world outside. Schools of colorful fish swam past the windows, and rays of sunlight filtered down through the blue water above. "This is where we really study them," Lisa explained, her voice echoing softly in the corridor. She was a marine biologist who had spent 15 years working with sharks. Her brown hair was tied back in a simple ponytail, and she wore the same calm expression that all humans seem to have around dangerous sea creatures. Through the clear walls, Crix could see dozens of sharks moving through their natural habitat. There were small reef sharks with sleek bodies, larger nurse sharks resting on the sandy bottom, and in the distance, the unmistakable shape of a great white shark gliding through deeper water. "You live inside their world," Crix observed, his gills fluttering nervously. "Are you not afraid they will break through the walls?" Lisa smiled. "These walls are incredibly strong, but honestly the sharks have no interest in breaking in. We are not food to them. We are just another part of their environment that they have learned to accept." They entered a large chamber where the walls curved upward to form a dome. This room extended directly into the shark habitat, giving visitors the feeling of being completely surrounded by ocean. Crix pressed himself against the far wall as a 6-foot reef shark swam directly overhead. "Would you like to meet some of them personally?" Lisa asked, checking her diving equipment that hung on nearby hooks. Crix felt his heart race, but something in Lisa's calm manner made him nod slowly. He was beginning to understand that humans saw something different when they looked at these predators. Maybe if he could see through their eyes he would finally understand. They put on diving gear and entered the main habitat through an airlock. The water was warm and clear, with visibility extending for hundreds of feet. Almost immediately they were surrounded by marine life. Fish of every size and color swam around them, and in the distance, larger shapes moved with lazy grace. Research specialist Brian Foster was already in the water, working near a coral formation. He was doing something that made Crix's mind struggle to process what he was seeing. Brian was hand-feeding a group of reef sharks, offering them pieces of fish directly from his gloved hands. "The secret is understanding their body language," Brian explained through his underwater communicator. His voice was calm and educational, like a teacher explaining a simple lesson. "Watch how this one approaches me. A 5-foot reef shark swam toward Brian with smooth, unhurried movements. Its fins were relaxed and its swimming pattern was steady and predictable. The shark came close enough for Brian to touch it, then opened its mouth to accept a piece of fish. "See how her fins are positioned?" Brian continued. "When sharks are aggressive or frightened, their movements become jerky and erratic. Their fins stand out from their bodies. This girl is completely relaxed. She knows the routine." Crix watched in amazement as more sharks approached Brian like trained pets. They waited patiently for their turn to be fed, showing no signs of the violent feeding frenzy that Crix had seen in documentaries about shark attacks. "Your species lives in constant danger," Crix said, his voice filled with confusion and wonder. "No more than yours," Lisa replied, swimming closer to where Brian was working. "You just removed your dangers instead of learning to work with them. We chose a different path." A massive shadow passed overhead, blocking out the sunlight for several seconds. Crix looked up to see the largest shark he had ever encountered. It was a great white, at least 18 feet long and thick with muscle. Its mouth was slightly open, revealing rows of triangular teeth that looked like they could cut through metal. "That is Margaret," Lisa said fondly, as if talking about an old friend. "She has been visiting this area for 12 years. We know her hunting patterns, her preferred routes, her behavior when she is looking for food versus when she is just patrolling her territory." "You named the death creature?" Crix asked in disbelief. "We name what we respect," Lisa explained. "Margaret is not a death creature. She is a perfectly designed predator doing exactly what millions of years of evolution created her to do. She hunts when she needs food, she patrols her territory, and she ignores things that are not relevant to her survival." Brian finished feeding the reef sharks and swam over to join them. "The same principles apply to everything we do," he said. "When humans first encountered hostile alien species, we could have tried to destroy them or run away from them. Instead, we studied their behavior patterns. We learned what made them aggressive and what made them peaceful." Margaret, the great white, slowly descended toward their group. Crix felt every instinct in his body screaming at him to flee, but he forced himself to remain still and watch. The massive predator approached until she was only a few feet away, her black eyes studying them with ancient intelligence. Then, just as calmly as she had arrived, Margaret turned and swam away into the deeper water. She had investigated the unusual activity in her territory and determined that it posed no threat to her. "Most conflicts in the galaxy come from fear and misunderstanding," Lisa said as they watched the great white disappear into the blue distance. "Humans learned long ago that the best way to survive is not to eliminate what scares us, but to understand it well enough that we no longer need to be afraid." For the first time since arriving on Earth, Crix began to see why humans had become such effective peacekeepers throughout the galaxy. They had spent thousands of years learning to swim with the monsters in their own world. The emergency alarm screamed across the Pacific training station like nothing Crix had ever heard before. Red lights flashed in every corridor as personnel ran to their stations. Through the windows he could see a trail of smoke and fire streaking across the morning sky. "All rescue teams report immediately," Commander Mitchell's voice boomed over the communication system. "Coalition transport ship Meridian is going down 30 miles southeast. 40 crew members on board. Engine failure after meteor strike." Crix felt his stomach drop. The Meridian was a passenger ship carrying diplomats and scientists from 12 different worlds. If it crashed in Earth's ocean, those people would be trapped in water filled with the very predators he had spent weeks learning to fear. In the equipment room, humans were already pulling on their rescue gear with practiced speed. Jack Turner, a veteran rescue swimmer with gray hair and kind eyes, tossed a diving suit to Crix. "You are qualified now," Jack said simply. "We need everyone who can swim." Crix stared at the diving suit in his webbed hands. 3 weeks ago he would not even enter the water on a calm, sunny day. Now they wanted him to dive into rough seas to save people from a burning ship. And he knew what would be waiting in those waters. "The crash site will attract every predator in the area," Crix said, his voice shaking. "The blood, the noise, the panic. They will come to investigate." "Probably," Jack agreed, checking his oxygen tank. "That is why we need to work fast." The rescue helicopter lifted off from the platform with a roar of engines. Inside, Crix sat with 5 human rescue swimmers and tried to control his breathing. Through the window he could see the crash site growing larger. The Meridian was half submerged, with survivors clinging to floating debris and emergency life rafts. "Estimated survival time in those waters is 4 hours, the pilot reported through his headset. "Water temperature is dropping and we have reports of multiple marine predators in the area." As if his words had summoned them, Crix's enhanced hearing picked up the familiar sounds of large creatures moving through the deep water. His sonar abilities told him there were at least 6 major predators circling the crash site. Very large ones. "Stay close to me," Jack said as they prepared to jump from the helicopter. "Remember everything you learned. They are just animals doing what animals do. They are not evil. They are not hunting us specifically." The helicopter hovered 50 feet above the churning water. One by one, the rescue swimmers leaped out and plunged into the ocean below. When Crix's turn came, he closed his eyes and jumped. The cold water hit him like a physical blow. For a moment, he panicked as memories of his safe home world flooded his mind. But then he heard Jack's voice through the underwater communicator. "Crix, I need you over here. We have injured survivors." Crix opened his eyes and began swimming toward the sound of Jack's voice. The water around the crash site was murky with fuel and debris. Pieces of the ship floated everywhere, and emergency flares cast red light through the waves. Almost immediately he detected them. 2 tiger sharks and a massive bull shark were approaching from the deep water, drawn by the unusual activity. Crix's every instinct screamed at him to flee to the surface and call for the helicopter to pick him up. Instead, he remembered Lisa's words from the research station. "They investigate anything new in their territory." "Sharks incoming," Crix reported through his communicator, surprised at how steady his voice sounded. 2 tigers and 1 bull. Large specimens. "I see them," Jack replied calmly. He was swimming toward a group of survivors who were clinging to a piece of wreckage. "Keep your movements smooth and purposeful. Do not act like prey." The first tiger shark approached while Crix was helping an injured Centauri engineer toward a life raft. The predator was enormous, at least 10 feet long, with distinctive dark stripes along its muscular body. It came close enough for Crix to see the pattern of scars on its hide. Every fiber of his being wanted to drop the survivor and flee. But he watched Jack continue his rescue work, occasionally glancing at the shark but never stopping his mission. The human showed no fear, only calm awareness. The tiger shark investigated them briefly, swimming in a wide circle around the rescue operation. Its black eye studied Crix for a long moment. Then, apparently deciding that the strange activity was not relevant to its needs, the shark moved on to investigate other parts of the crash site. "See," Jack said, reaching another survivor. "Just checking us out. We are not acting like food, so we are not interesting to them." Over the next 3 hours, Crix helped rescue 37 of the 40 crew members. Sharks circled throughout the entire operation, but not once did they attack. They were simply part of the environment like the waves or the wind. Something to be aware of and respect but not to fear. The largest predator was a bull shark that had to be 12 feet long. It passed between Crix and Jack so closely that Crix could have touched its dorsal fin. The massive creature investigated their equipment, bumped gently against one of the life rafts, and then lost interest and swam away. When the last survivor was winched up to the rescue helicopter, Admiral Zephin was waiting on the platform. His 4 arms were crossed and his expression was thoughtful. "I have never seen anything like it," he told Commander Mitchell. "Your people swam through apex predators like they were swimming through harmless fish." "That is exactly the point, Admiral," Mitchell replied. "We do not see them as monsters to be defeated. They are just neighbors we have learned to live with." 3 months later, Crix graduated at the top of his class in aquatic operations. His request for permanent assignment to Earth's Maritime Defense Division was approved immediately. He had learned the most valuable lesson in the galaxy. Sometimes the greatest strength comes not from conquering your fears, but from swimming alongside them. The Galactic Coalition's new training manual would be based entirely on the Earth model. 17 different worlds requested human advisors to help them establish similar programs on their own planets.